Welcome all to Walking the Weird. My name is Tyler, and with me as always is Sean. You all right? Yeah, no. And I thought I'd start this one off with a little song.
Oh
You
God,
know,
no!
we
Oh
didn't start the
God,
fire. Oh, we didn't light it, and we didn't fight it. We didn't start the fire.
shut up. That's a good song though. That's a good fitting song.
So I heard we have a story today.
Yep. The story that we have today is a case of the Death Valley Germans. I don't know if you've heard about it.
No,
You're like, I'm about to.
never heard that one.
So, Death Valley Germans takes place between two main military bases.
Oh, like a canyon where air flows through and makes the fire worse.
Stop. Go away. Go away.
I've learned a lot about California in the past couple days. I had no idea about.
Oh yeah,
Like,
there's a lot of
I was like,
science
wait,
and
there's
valley
what?
stuff.
It just makes everything worse.
Yeah, the valley winds.
It makes
yeah.
me more mad. I'm like, wow, you guys just didn't even.
Yeah.
All right.
They should
you
have
didn't
prepared,
try.
but they didn't try.
Yeah.
No, so
Anyway, go ahead.
Sorry
Sorry.
about that. The Death Valley Germans have to do basically. It's a missing family that ends up between two bases, China Lake Air Force Base, and what is it? Another Nevada Air Force Base that was there, not Area 51. I promise. I promise.
There is
But
other bases.
There is other bases, not the only one.
Things do happen.
So
besides Area
essentially,
51.
I'm going to give you a brief synopsis and then the quick background, and then we'll do the actual disappearance itself. So this case baffled everybody for quite some time because of the fact that it was out in the middle of nowhere at the base of a canyon, and what they found there was a van, a random Dodge Caravan, like one of those Chrysler Caravans. You're like, how the fuck did it get out here? Miles and miles away from a road. And this happened when one of the park rangers went up in the air and started looking through a chopper, through aerial view. They brought it down when they saw that car. So a little bit about what he found out when he found that car was it was a family that consisted of 34-year-old architect Egbert Rimkus.
Nice name.
I know, right? Egbert. His 11-year-old son, George Weber Rimkus, and his girlfriend, Cornelia Meyer, and their 4-year-old son, Max Meyer, as well. All of whom were from Dresden, Germany. The group arrived in the United States on the 8th of July, 1996. They started in Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. But they immediately flew out from there to Los Angeles Air Force, or not Los Angeles Airport, not Air Force Base. Sorry. They rented a green 1996 Plymouth Voyager minivan, so it's the direct competition to the Dodge Caravan that came out at the time. It's the same one.
Okay.
Sorry, but they drove to Southern California. They drove to Las Vegas, Nevada. They stayed at the Treasure Island Casino. We've been to that hotel. During that trip, Rimkus called his bank in Germany and requesting $15,000 to be wired to them in California, and then he faxed his ex-wife asking for additional funds. So they were looking for funds for some odd reason. The family then drove from there to Death Valley on July 22nd, where they bought 2 copies of the Death Valley National Park Museum text. So it's like a map.
And I had a question. So
Yes.
15 or 50,000?
No, I'm sorry. 1,500, not 15,000. 1,500.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have said that. Thank you for correcting.
Because that's a lot of money. Like I'm just
Yeah,
making
no, I
sure,
know.
like, because that's you might have said 1,500, but in my head I'm like, that's even 1,500
That's still quite a bit of money
for yeah.
to ask someone for. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
to
that's,
ask someone
yeah,
for. That's a little
without
bit.
it being an emergency.
Right.
Because you could see if it's an emergency. Hey, I need this amount of money to get home.
Yeah,
Okay,
you know, my airplane fucked up, or like they overbooked the flights. I need an extra. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
I'll reimburse you when you get home.
Right.
Like, That's kind of normal.
And they bought this text that they bought, like the maps and like kind of like the touristy text. They bought this at the Furnace Creek Visitor Center, and they spent their first night camping in the Hanopah Canyon near Telescope Peak. The next day, the group traveled to various tour sites, with Cornelia signing the names of all the family members on a visitor's log at an abandoned mining camp. So, like, there's kind of a track record of where they were going. They just didn't know why they ended up there. You know what I mean? It's a little difficult. It's a little complicated for them. So she included the signatures in the visitors log in the abandoned mining camp. She included the signature that they would be headed over the pass. So she mentioned it that they would be headed over to the pass, most likely indicating Mangle Pass, a U.S. flag taken from the geologist's cabin in Boot Valley was discovered in the van. So the flag that was taken from that place was discovered in the van. So it kind of like led them in a paper trail of where they were going. So overall, and these are just, and again, it's just the background of where they found them, what they found along with it, all the other things that they can kind of recollect. So this is the initial disappearance and search, and the family had booked the flight from Los Angeles to return to Germany on the 27th of July. So there was intent of returning.
To come home.
They wanted to come back, and this return date actually is the reason what started more and more complexing theories. These theories varied from desert Bigfoot to
as you do.
As you do.
I mean, what investigation doesn't start with desert Bigfoot?
Right.
Name one.
Name one.
Name one.
Desert Bigfoot.
You couldn't even name one. See? Always desert Bigfoot.
Always desert Bigfoot. Always suspect the desert Bigfoot. So they had the desert Bigfoot. They had the whole.
Be careful, because sometimes desert Yeti and desert Bigfoot fight.
It's an epic showdown.
Usually in Walmart.
It's like Mechagodzilla versus Godzilla.
Seriously, people die.
No, so the theories ran from desert Bigfoot to alien abduction. Mechagodzilla. Mothra. No, just kidding.
Mothra. Yep. No, Mothra would bring it back.
No, alien abduction.
Alien Mothra. They kind of is
alien Mothra.
Yep.
No, they had alien abduction. They had Bigfoot. They had victims of the Chupacabra. They had a bunch of weird ones, and then they had more.
I don't like chalupas.
Wow, if that wasn't racist, I don't know what that was.
I didn't mean it as a racism. I mean it as I'm a white.
Chupacabra.
Bless
Whatever.
You. Bless you.
So it started a bunch of rumors. One of the rumors that it ultimately ended up with as well is espionage. But we'll go into those details later. So
wait, when was this?
In 1996.
What? Okay, now you're getting into the Nazi moon base. What espionage? We found them.
We'll get there. It's this whole thing.
I knew it.
It's this whole thing that ties back to. It's a lot.
Mechagodzilla and Desert Bigfoot are working against the U.S. government. I fucking knew it.
I fucking knew it. So anyway, the family booked the flight to return home to Germany on July 27th, 1996, but there was no evidence that they boarded the flight, obviously, or departed the United States.
That could be a problem, yeah.
Yeah. The ex-wife, remember I told you the Rimkiss's ex-wife became concerned with her ex-husband, which is kind of strange because normally ex-wives are not that concerned. And son didn't return from their vacation, and it was explained to multiple people, including the people that were near this family, that they were going on vacation, so they had every intention of coming back. And she began to inquire about their whereabouts. Months passed, so this all happened in July. On October 21st, 1996, the family's rental minivan was discovered. In an extremely remote part of the park known as Anvil Canyon, east of Willow Spring and Death Valley National Park, DVNP. And it was discovered by a ranger aboard a helicopter. I mentioned that earlier. He was doing just general surveillance, looking for drug manufacturing labs around that area.
That makes sense.
Yeah, around that area, there's a lot of like meth and like H factories and stuff like that. In subsequent inspections, they found 3 of the 4 tires were flat, which is actually incorrect. They actually corrected the statement that it was all 4 tires ended up flat. So this guy drove until they were on the rim, and he kept pushing the van. So they were damaged. The tires were damaged by driving over the rocky terrain, and the vehicle had been driven on them for about 2 miles. So there was a lot of warping on the rim and all that stuff. So they had been quite some time with those fucked up tires. The van had been reported to be stolen by the rental company, which is kind of nice because normally they'll just charge you. But they were like, no, we're going to report it missing, and, hopefully we can get something back.
Like, it seems like in all of this that it's just like, nah, these guys are just normal people. Like
Yeah.
something's wrong. Like
Something
they're not.
happened.
Yeah, they're not here to just
I
take
think a
our
lot
shit.
of I think a lot of like red flags went up to a lot of people, and they were like, "Well, wait a minute, why don't we check this out?" You know what I mean? Rather than just jumping up.
And I'm
into it.
sure if they still had the van, they
Right.
would charge them. But like, that's cool that they were just like, nah, this isn't. They're just tourists. Like
Yeah,
this isn't just nothing.
yeah, and they confirmed that it was the Death Valley Germans, that it was Egbert and all that stuff with the records and everything, and they were just kind of like, "Hey, we just want our van back, bro. Like if it's there, bring it to us." It was there, but it was not in the best shape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a brand new and they found a brand new Coleman sleeping bag, tent, numerous toys, and an unused tire jack were all found inside the van. So they had a tire jack, they had tent, they had supplies, they had all that stuff.
To be fair, if they had a Toyota, it would have been fine.
Yeah, it would have still made it.
Yeah.
It'd be driving.
Yeah, it'd still be around.
This search effort consisted of over 200 searchers, like workers, volunteers. They performed an extensive search around the minivan, and the search cost around $80,000 to include over 45 searchers at almost all times. So at least 45 in the group were constantly around the clock.
Yeah, someone was always there trying to find them.
Yeah, exactly. Not they didn't use all the people, all 200
But
workers,
there was always
but there was always someone there. Yeah, so they did that, and then the search failed to yield any clues, any whereabouts, except for one single beer bottle that was discovered under a bush over a mile. So it's 1.6 kilometers for those fucking metrics, away from the stranded vehicle, and it had a ledge that had been cleared next to the beer bottle with a seat mark indicating that one of the family members, they think it could have been just Egbert, went and actually sat down and had used it for some type of shade or anything like that. On October 26th, 1996, the authorities called off the search for the missing tourists. Now, they had been searching for quite some time, and all they found was the beer. So up to this point, they thought that something happened to the family inside, and he was the only survivor.
Yeah.
Or he was trying to run away from something and was the only survivor, right? Now, they called off the search. They did all that. There was a man, two men, actually, two hikers, Les Walker and Tom Mahood, who were obsessed with this case. They were one of the original searchers, all that stuff. They became obsessed, and they started looking around everywhere. Tom Mahood ended up retracing his steps and going around the whole perimeter, only to discover another beer bottle and then the remains of the family.
All of them?
No.
Oh, that's not good.
So this leads us to discovering remains. So on November 12th, 2009, so much after, like 1996 to 2009, 13-year gap, Les Walker and Tom Mahood, two hikers, were off-duty search and rescue personnel looking for traces of the family. Now, it's important to note both of these guys were previous search and rescue, all right? And they're
not just nobodies.
Right, they're not just nobodies. They're built for this terrain. Don't go out looking for random missing people. They can do it, but they've been trained for this shit. Don't go out there because you're going to end up losing yourself.
And then you just added to the problem.
And you added to this situation. I encourage people and I don't advocate for police a lot, but if you're in a missing person situation, let them do their job. Let them do what they got to do for a while at least. If you want to venture off, make sure you at least know where you're going. You tell someone and you bring someone with you just in case. Be safe.
Tell them that you're helping them.
Yeah.
Don't just be over there.
Yeah, because then you get confusion and scrambled and everyone's...
You don't need that.
Yeah, it's a huge issue.
Yeah.
And they were not just off duty. These people were avidly looking for them.
Yeah, it's not just it's a hobby, but also they're trained. Like they know what to look for and what's not. What's not there.
And it's funny. Most of the news outlets said that these people were just like hobby guys. That's like, no, they were actually like involved in the case and everything. So they were looking for traces of the family. They discovered the skeletal remains of two adults, one male, one female, with the identification belonging to the missing tourists found near the remains. Cornelia's passport and bank ID were both found near the remains. Other belongings, such as a journal with German writing, and a wine bottle were found and attributed to the missing family. Although DNA was recovered from only bones of Rimkus, originally they were thought to be too sun bleached to get anything, but it turned out that they were able to get something. Authorities claimed that they were fairly certain that the bones belonged to the missing tourist. The remains of the children were never officially discovered, although the sole of a shoe, possibly from one of the children, was found. Supposedly, bones resembling those of children were found by searchers near where the adults' remains were found, but no official report was made following up the discovery. Mahood speculated that while vacationing in the Death Valley on July 23rd, 1996, the family, short on time and wanting to visit Yosemite National Park on their way back to Los Angeles, attempted to take a shortcut to Yosemite on a route whose difficulty they underestimated. He believed he may not have seen an AT&T tower and approached it to find help, but his field work led him to realize that the tower would not have been visible from their route. So this is Tom Mahood's speculation. He thinks that that's what happened and that they saw like a tower, but originally where they were, there was no view of it. It wouldn't have been visible. So Mahood then explored the theory that their vehicle became stranded in the wash, the area where they were at. The family traveled on foot southwards towards to seek help from the Naval Air Weapons Station in China Lake. I mentioned that earlier, where they have expected to find a well-patrolled fence perimeter, a common feature of military bases in Germany, but not a military base in the desert areas of the southwestern United States. The family likely succumbed to heat stroke. Average high temperature in Death Valley is anywhere between 116 to 130 degrees, and dehydration, lack of water, to the base of the perimeter. Now, this is where their confusion occurred. They thought that the China Lake Air Force Base would be patrolled like the ones in Germany. They usually have patrol stations out here, and most of the time in military bases in the United States, they don't have avid patrols outside. They have the guard towers.
It depends on the base, but
of course, yeah. But typically, especially out in the desert, no one's going to do that.
How would you even get there? Most of the time, there's probably one road in.
There's pretty much if there's a guard that is watching the perimeter and he encounters you in the desert, it's probably going to be shoot to kill. Like, what are you doing here?
How did you get here?
Why did you get here? So, and this led to a lot of speculation. So, Egbert, it was revealed after that he was in a lot of development programs with Germany, like a lot of their government. He was involved in a lot of classified ops and everything like that. Now, the extent of the classification, don't know. We don't know. We know that his work was classified. We don't know if it had to do anything with espionage or anything like that. But the theory came out that maybe he might have been a spy. And what he was trying to do was spy on the China Lake Air Force Base. And as he was trying to get there, he careened out of control. He went out to this place. Because the place that they found him on, there's a public road that leads to it. It's a public road, but it's all dirt. So it's like one of those, like where you would go shoot. You know how you go to random like dirt trails, but they're all like tagged and everything like that?
Yeah.
So it's a government property, except it's a little bit off. It's like 2 miles off the actual road. So it was all desert. It was all rough terrain. So they're wondering why he was taking that particular road. Now the guess of Yosemite is a likely one, but the problem is that there's other, like any map would have shown them the route on the street. That's where people start getting confused. Like even if you were trying to get a shortcut, it would tell you, hey, don't do this unless you reach like.
From what I've heard, the like roads, like especially that far out, they can be a maze, and then you might not realize what road you're on. You might think, hey, I'm on road A1. In actuality, you're on road F7, and you're actually going the wrong. You're not even close.
Right.
So you're like, oh, I'll just turn here because this is how to get here, and then
and with the language barrier, how are you even going to know?
Yeah, you're even worse.
The only thing I do say is that most of those roads do have signs that say like no regular cars. That they have but they show pictures where they show like a car, and
ATV,
then yeah. So which makes me think if if they had the presence of mind to go down that road, why didn't they see those signs and why did they keep trudging? And again, it could have been stupidity. It could have been everything. Now,
or desperation,
or
like
desperation.
they're so lost. They're like, well, maybe we'll find someone.
True. To keep going forward.
Or
Yeah.
or maybe I've heard of this too, where people on purpose have the like, oh, I can mess up, I can go do this, it's illegal. Maybe that'll signal some kind of police presence or ranger or something.
Yeah.
That then I can get help.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of stranded people who get stranded on, and I can only think of the movie, but it's based on a real case where the girls were stuck on one of those light towers, and they broke the light because they knew that breaking the light would automatically signal like the police, and they like try to break the light, and like the light finally goes out, and like not even 15 minutes later, police show
Yeah,
up.
there's
Like,
there's
there's
because-
cops there.
Yeah, they weren't, and we're not blaming them. It's
Yeah, no, it could have
No,
happened to anybody. It
like,
could happen to
when
everybody.
you're in that kind of situation, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Like it's not oh, you broke the law. Yeah, I was gonna die.
Yeah.
And sadly they did die.
They did die. They did die. Now, do I think that the kids were with them? See, this is the weird thing. The bones of what they thought the kids were significantly before where they found them. They were like almost a mile away. So it begs the question, did they die and they kept going? How could you do that with a kid?
Maybe something happened. The weather they weren't ready for, and the kids succumbed really quickly.
But my point is leaving them behind. Like, how could you leave them behind? Like, as a person, I don't think, as a normal person, I don't think a normal person could have just left
Yeah,
them
like
behind.
you think like the mom would say, "No, I'm gonna stay with the kids," or near them, or
Or
like-
bury them. But they weren't even like
maybe
buried.
not necessarily buried. Maybe they were so well, like they're
So-
not well off,
so
but
tired.
like so just drained that they're like, "Hey, we have to keep going because we're going to die, and then we'll come back from there." I'm sure, like most parents would never leave, but they'd be like, "Okay, we have to go. We can't stay." Like I think most parents would. I think I know where you're gonna. Most parents would stay.
Yeah,
They would
most
just
parents
die.
would stay.
They would die with.
They
their
would stay
children.
in that spot, or they would try to go back to the car.
Yes.
Like, that would be where my train of thought would be.
I think most, unless they were really, really like just drained, I think most parents would pick up their children and
Drag
fucking
them.
drag them,
Drag 'em if
to
they
the
had to.
car. They don't. Yeah.
Now, what if it wasn't that way? What if...
So we're back to Bigfoot.
No. What if instead of them dying and them seeing them as like, oh, fuck, my kids died, maybe they were just so overwhelmed with everything that they're just like, food.
That's fucked.
Tell me it's not a possibility.
I
They're delusional. They haven't had water in days. They probably haven't slept in days. God knows how much of their consciousness was actually there. Like,
that's still a stretch though.
how else did they get a mile and a half away from their kids' bodies without them going back, double backing, or anything like
Or
that? Or
they're
even
just
staying?
so gone they didn't even realize they died.
Yeah, they were just walking. and
Everyone's
they
just walking. All of a sudden they turn around, their fucking kids are gone.
and they're like laying down or something. Yeah,
But
and
they
they're just
can't
like,
Go back, like
because that's
they're
energy,
so
that's
out,
time.
yeah.
Because maybe they didn't even realize it right away. Maybe they realized it when they were already.
yeah, that's what I
Kind
mean.
of lengthy
They're
out and they
already
looked out.
they're already out there. They turn around, kids aren't there, and they don't have the energy to come back
And look for the
And
kids.
they're like, okay, we'll stay. Maybe they'll catch up. Or they wanted to go back, and that's maybe they were farther out.
Maybe they were farther
And then
out than
came
they
back in
realized.
to go find them and died on the way.
Yeah.
Not knowing that their kids probably had already died.
Or not just that, everything looks the same. God knows if them wanting to go back maybe led to an argument, they turned around and then they headed and they were like going the wrong way the whole time, not realizing that they were going the opposite way of their kids.
doing circles and
Yeah.
have no idea.
Because more beer bottles were found later in another area where there was shade and everything like that further out. And it's like, so
Maybe that's where they
stop.
the husband and wife stopped, realized the kids aren't there. They tried to hydrate with what they had to go back and find them, and then they died along the way.
Yeah. Maybe. That could...
It's just... I can't see people eating their children. I think most people would rather... Like, don't get me wrong. I know it happens in
Donner
history.
party, bro.
I know it
Donner
happens
party.
in history. I understand that, but most people would rather the kids eat them.
True. Because that was the first thing that happened in the Donner Party, where one of the guys literally like cut off his own arm in order to feed everybody. Yeah, and he like literally like cut off his own arm for it. So it was self-mutilation before it went to cannibalism. So I couldn't see that.
I could not see a mother and father willingly eating their children.
Right. Because because you know that
something had
to have happened.
Yeah. That's not...
Because you know that the second that you get kind of shaken out of it, like, because you're going to get nutrients,
you're
right?
You're going to kill yourself.
Yeah, the second you're
probably going to kill yourself.
Yeah, right. The second you have, like, nutrients in you, your mind's going to snap back, and you're going to look and be like...
you're going to realize what you did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard one.
And going along the route you're saying, you come back. You realize what you did. Now everyone realized what you did. You're not going to have a life. You're fucked. You might as well just fucking kill yourself.
Because that's what happened to the... We're talking about a lot of things. I don't know if you heard about the movie called Winter City.
No.
It's based on a story about a rugby team who traveled and they got stuck in the mountains and they all had to eat each other. And there's a picture of all them smiling, and you don't realize that in the very corner there's like an opened rib cage where a person was, and they just ate it, and they're taking a picture of all of them smiling.
That's horrible.
Yeah, dude, because they were about to be like, they had seen like a safe zone, like a fire or something that indicated that they were going to be saved. So they were all happy that they were going to be saved, and it ended up that the two guys that they sent as scouts, the rest of the group died. Those two guys made it.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah, but they took a picture, and they're I'm gonna show you the picture because it's fucked.
Yeah,
there's like an
empty
rib cage, like just chilling. And you're like,
it's shit's dark, bro.
And they had like the people who did survive, because they found a few other people from like the main group and stuff like that. They had like no life. They were seen as like the most horrible people in the world. It's like,
yeah, because they
but you don't know what it's like out there, bro.
They broke the ultimate taboo.
But you don't know what it's like out there, man. It's really hard.
No, I like in that kind of situation, but it's different than parents.
True. No, that's completely different. That's
if in that situation, I bet you if one of the dads was there, he'd be like, "Son, eat me.
Just do it.
Let's get eat. I'm not."
As a man of the family, you'd probably be like, "Okay, cool. You guys are gonna continue. You guys are gonna kill me.
I'm gonna die.
Yeah. You guys are gonna kill me. You guys are gonna eat."
You'd probably help them prepare everything.
Yeah.
So like, hey, don't waste any meat.
Yeah.
Don't waste my blood. Like.
Yeah. Here's a gun in case or here's a weapon in case animals get nearby. You know, whatever. Right.
Here's how to prepare me.
Me. Writing a cookbook on yourself. How morbid, bro. But that also leads to people speculating about the alien abduction. They think that I get it. But this one is very it's one of the more grounded ones. It's not the ones where they take you for sexual experimentation. Like the idea was, or the theory is that the extraterrestrials were going to abduct them, but they kind of realized that they were very close to death.
So they didn't want us. They just brought them back.
So they took the kids only.
Oh,
who probably had a higher likelihood of survival. So they took the kids and they pretty much said "fuck you" to the parents, and the parents didn't go without a fight. Like they tried to come back, they tried to get their kids from where they were, but they were already gone. Like, and then heartbroken, whatever, they aimlessly wandered the desert until they keeled over. Now,
can't always be aliens, guys.
Can't always
this shit
be
happens.
Aliens. Yeah, it does happen
normally. Like
people
get lost.
The theory about him being a spy was because he was working on so many covert missions. Was that he was supposed to go to the Death Valley and then walk it to China Lake.
Okay.
The only problem is that I totally get it, but think about it. In Germany and those places like that, do you think they're really going to mention the Death Valley in their history books?
No.
Like, you know what I mean? They're probably not going to mention it. So they probably looked at it and said, "Oh, this is probably just a regular desert. Just grab your pack, go. You'd be fine."
Death Valley is called that for a fucking reason.
Yeah, it's super hot. It's literally the hottest place in the world.
Like, dude, and you'd get out there and realize it. That
Yeah.
it's not suddenly it got hot.
So much.
No.
You realize it's so much so that standing at the base of a hill and standing at the top of a hill is a significant degree change. Like, it's a significant degree change.
And us living in the desert, we know, we have people all the time come here, try and hike the mountains thinking they're fucking awesome. No, and then they don't bring water, and then 20 minutes in, they're fucking dying on the mountain,
Yeah.
and we have to get them off all the time.
Yeah, they get chopper rescued.
Because they don't realize that it's not like everywhere else.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's not that hot. It's fine. It's like, no, it's how the heat affects you too. You're like, oh, I've been in 100 degrees. Yeah. Here, if you're not acclimatized to it, if you're not used to it like me and him are,
Yeah.
you're gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be that hot.
Because most people are used to like other places where if you are out in the sunlight, yeah, it's horrible, and then you go into the shade, it's like you feel a nice breeze, the temperature
don't
kind of
have
cools
that
down.
here.
Yeah, we don't have that. It's hot. It's
Yeah.
hot when you go into the breeze.
It's not. That's what I think happened.
Yeah.
Because every time I hear stories like this, I'm like, yeah,
that's what happened.
They thought they were fine.
And you think-
because everyone always does.
And again, everyone goes, "Well, wait, we'll wait until nightfall." That's what everybody that gets stranded on the desert. We'll wait until nightfall. Those people are acclimated because during nightfall, it's like 110. It's like 105. It's still 100.
And even when it drops down, cool. All that sweat, you never regained it.
Yeah, and now
you
you're
sweat
just
it out.
Yeah.
Now you're getting cold, and you have no water still.
yeah.
The worst thing you can drink, by the way, in the temperatures like that, is soda
Soda, beer,
and beer.
yeah,
and beer.
wine, all that,
That's-
any alcoholic stuff.
That's the worst things you could. Everyone says, "Oh, it dehydrates you." Yeah, it dehydrates you way worse. You're
Yeah.
already dehydrated. By the time you realize that, hey, I might need some kind of drink, you're extremely dehydrated.
Right.
That's when you're here. If you don't know, it's always best to like drink water before you go, and don't wait until you're thirsty.
Right.
Never wait until you're thirsty. If you wait until you're thirsty, you're on the path to severe dehydration.
Right, because when you're thirsty, you've already lost like what 1% of your overall body weight in
Something
water.
like that. And
Yeah.
And if you ever go to the desert, it's not a good thing when you stop sweating.
Yeah, it's a bad thing. It's a bad
very,
thing.
very bad.
It's the first sign. It's the first sign of the last signs of
severe-
heat stroke
yeah.
and dehydration.
Yep.
You're completely losing sweat, all that stuff. Like again,
you've lost sweat.
Yeah,
That
you've
means you're
lost.
also
You've lost sweat to the
salt,
point where you can't do that.
electrolytes. So you're not going to be thinking right.
Yep.
Or if somehow you are thinking right, your body's not going to move right.
Oh yeah, no, it's
Like
not.
because the electrical signal.
You're gonna be all
inside-
lethargic. You're
yeah,
gonna be everything.
You're not okay. You're not thinking.
and that's where it leads me to believe that maybe they didn't they didn't realize that their kids got left behind because they were so fucking
There's
out of it.
fucking literally loopy.
Yeah,
They're
literally, your brain detaches from reality at about day 2 without sleep, and then day what is it like 1.5 without water? You start losing it. It's like,
It's just
bro,
it's even with that, even the shade of the car, all of that, it all. Guys, we can bake cookies in our cars.
we can literally fry an egg on our fucking. We can cook a steak on our fucking sidewalks,
Like
my guy.
it's no joke,
hot.
and Death Valley is hotter than that.
It's way hotter than that.
So by the time you're feeling the effects, you're probably dying.
Yeah, or very well on your way to it.
Yeah.
So a lot of these reports and accounts of the Death Valley Germans, like all these theories and stuff, stemmed from the partial remains of the children that they found, and then the partial remains of the parents.
Hold on, sorry. What you just said? Death Valley Germans. Doesn't get that hot over there.
Yeah, no,
They wouldn't-
Germany is cold.
So even let's say it was a cool day in Death Valley, to them it would be extremely hot.
Yeah.
They're in a worse position than everywhere else.
Yeah.
If it was snowing, they'd probably be fine. But every person I've ever seen that came from like the East Coast or somewhere cold, they do
They
not last
struggle.
long.
They
here.
struggle
Even when it's
hard,
like
bro.
90 degrees out, they're dying.
I had a friend from the United Kingdom come over. She's from Liverpool, I think. Whatever. Very rainy, very fucking cold.
It's very, dude. They suffer,
Bro, she
It's
came here,
quick.
and I think the first year she had like 3 heat strokes.
No,
It was
it's
so
it's
bad.
yeah, it's
bad.
no
It's horrible.
joke. Like, because people don't realize,
And they don't, and they really don't, and they think that they're, and this happens with a lot of people, not just these guys, but a lot of people think, oh, it's not going to be that cold, oh, it's not going to be that hot, and it ends up being the worst thing.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think a lot of reasons why there's so many people dead on Mount Everest, because you're going there, you're like, oh, it's cold, and I've been in snow before, so I should be fine. It's like, bro,
No.
it's negative like 35. You're gonna die. There's no oxygen. Like, I understand that you think it's a little hard to breathe sometimes when you're laying down flat on your bed. It's nothing like this. You're suffocating.
that's the whole paradoxical undressing.
Yeah. Yeah. When
they
you get
feel
too
warm
cold that you
and-
start
and-
feeling warm. Yeah.
And then they take off their clothes.
And also, not just that, like, people underestimate, like, the power of your mind. So,
They get euphoric.
yeah.
They get euphoric, and I wonder if I don't really know, but I think it's a lot more extreme in like heat wise. I don't think you get euphoric. I think you just get tired.
Yeah. And heat,
Like-
you get really tired. You want to go to sleep, like,
'Cause-
really bad.
Sadly, your brain is cooking.
Boiling.
Yeah.
Your internal
In
body
your
temperature
head.
goes through the roof. Like, it's really, and again,
I've
we,
had heat stroke before. It is not.
yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun
It's
at all.
literally like you don't know. You don't like you don't know you have it until it's very, very bad.
And when it snaps into it, you're like, oh, I might be having heat stroke. You're already,
you're gone.
You're gone.
You're
already going.
if
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
if you're not, by the time you realize it, if you're not cooling yourself down, you're probably dead.
Yeah. Like, even, and let me tell you how bad it is. Let me tell you about it for those people out there. My stepdad works in California.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a very hot, deserty part in California working on his truck because it broke down. And when he did that, he had to call someone, and they got there in 20 minutes, and his legs were stiff as a board. They were stiff as a board, and he was just shaking on the ground because he was going into heat stroke, to the point that they had to grab water and just like throw it
And
on
that's
him.
bad,
and just,
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but they
you
didn't know that.
can't-
They were trying
yeah.
to figure it out.
Yeah, please. When someone going through heat stroke, give them like water and electrolytes. Don't give them cold water.
Yeah, don't give them cold water.
Don't.
It's
make them
really bad.
cold because you're shocking their system.
Yeah.
They could literally stroke out from you saving them.
Right
It's
there.
a real thing.
It's a
Like,
real thing.
It happens.
And thankfully
You
he
have to be careful.
didn't. Thankfully he didn't. They threw water on him, and then they like covered him up so that way it would try to like absorb through the skin. They gave him water as well, so that way just to make him more comfortable. Thankfully he was okay. But and that's California, bro. The hottest it gets out there is like 100 degrees, if that. And in Death Valley, the coldest day, because you were talking about the coldest day in July, the coldest day in July in Death Valley goes up to like 97, bro. Like, it's unbearable, man. And these poor guys, like, who ended
Since
up,
we're from here, I'm like, oh, 97's not that bad.
yeah, we're just like, oh, it's not that bad. We can make it. But
Everyone else is like, what the hell?
yeah, but again, that's because we're used to it. So it's like, for us, we're like, oh, 97. That's like, you put your windows down,
Yeah.
you put a light jacket on. But for everybody else, they're like, bro, we're dying. It's like, no, I get it. And I feel bad for the situation of this family, because if it is just a touristy thing, they made a very grave mistake just because they were trying to have fun. And unfortunately, that's how it goes. But it's just sad to hear.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not with, and I know you guys have been hearing this more and more. I'm not with the conspiracy theories with this kind of stuff. This happens way too often, where it's literally someone made a slight mistake and it cost them their lives. This happens all the time,
Right.
sadly.
And the reason that we bring up, or the reason I bring up these cases, is to show that not everything's paranormal. While there are cases that we go over that, hey, we don't have
Maybe.
any clue.
Yeah,
There's some that are just like, hey, this is not.
yeah.
You know what I
This
mean?
is- and it doesn't. And in this case, it almost makes it like it's like disrespecting the tragedy of it.
Yeah.
Say, oh, aliens. Well, no, this poor family fucking died, and to be a little gruesome, they cooked
They literally
They
cooked.
cooked.
And again, while we're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt that they didn't eat their kids,
That's horrible too. Like
there might be a possibility that he ate
be
his
brought
kids.
to that.
Point. Yeah, it's insanity. It's really tough, and it's one of those stories where again we have half the story missing because we'll never know what happened with these guys.
That's what we should just rename the podcast to. The rest of the story isn't here.
The rest of the story is missing half.
Yeah.
No,
Your guess is as good as mine. But to get back to your point, it's not always that. It's
Right.
okay, and that's
Exactly.
okay. These stories are still interesting just to hear like
everything that's going on.
reality.
Yeah,
It's a real
pretty
story.
much.
So yeah.
But, yeah, that was the case so far. I got something special next week, but other than that, we should be good.
All right. Well, I've been Tyler, and
I've been Sean.
we'll see you next time.
See you guys.